Yo, what's going on, YouTube? What's going on? This is your boy Ross with The Rock Never Stops, coming to you with another episode of some NBA content. Today, I'm going to be talking about the most recent NBA farm team known as the Houston Rockets. Uh, if you're unfamiliar with what a farm team is, it's a team that develops young, talented players or has a lot of talent that gets sent up to other teams in the big leagues who want to win. And today's video is going to be about how the Houston Rockets are going to play just that exact role in next season's NBA season. Um, the Houston Rockets, right now, if you're unfamiliar, they're probably one of the hottest, most exciting teams in the NBA. They've got young, exciting players like Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, uh, Jayshawn Tate, Alperen Sengun, Usman Garuba, Kenyon Martin Jr. They've got a lot of young talent, and all this young talent deserves playing time. But the flip side of that means that the veterans are kind of asked out. They're kind of in a position where it's like, look, we're not really trying to win. And we don't necessarily want to give you a lot of minutes because you're not really what is taking us in the direction that we want to go as a franchise, as an organization. And so this leaves a group of players on this roster to be high candidates for being bought out or traded to somebody who is willing to package the right pieces or is desperate enough to try to make a deal and acquire them on their team. So today we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets, their veteran players, and what potential contenders I think that we're going to see them on next season. So the first player that I want to take a look at is probably the biggest name player on the Houston Rockets that's not one of the young guys, and that's John Wall. John Wall is only 31 years old. Believe it or not, it seems like he's been in the league almost as long as LeBron James. But really, he's actually still in his prime. And he's about 2 years removed from returning from his Achilles injury, which means that he's actually in the season where we're expecting the biggest bounce back. This should be the year potentially where we see him return to form, if not as athletic as he was before the injury, at least close enough to where he's performing at a near all-star level. We got to remember last season, he was averaging about 21 points and 6 assists a game. He was shooting the ball a little bit better. His stroke looked real smooth. He was getting guys the ball, and he still showed that quick athleticism, that quick twitch that allowed him to get to the rim whenever he wanted to and really break down defenses. Considering the fact that he's about 6'4", multiple time All-Star with a lot of playoff experience, his value is actually really high. The problem is that it's just not as high as his contract. And I think the Houston Rockets know that. I think they know that John Wall is an extremely valuable player for a team that actually needs him, but not valuable enough for most teams to actually trade for. So what I foresee for John Wall is a buyout. I think he's going to get bought out. He's got about 2 years left, about 90 something million dollars left on it, which means about 40 something million each year. Now, the big thing about that is it's not that bad of a deal for the Houston Rockets to buy him out. What that allows them to do is to take on that salary, which they need anyway to meet the minimum requirement salary for NBA franchises. And at the same time, be able to prefer to play their young guys a lot of minutes without worrying about having a veteran who's more worthy of those minutes because of their experience and talent, like a John Wall. So now they can feel free to play guys like Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, heavy minutes at the starting 1 and 2 spot. Um, and at the same time, John Wall has an opportunity to compete for a championship somewhere. The main teams that I see potentially going after him are teams like Milwaukee, the Miami Heat, and the Golden State Warriors. If he's bought out and is on the open market, those three teams are in I would say, probably the greatest position to make a pitch to him and say, you can come here and literally compete for a championship right now. Not only can you compete for a championship, but we actually need you. We don't have depth at the point guard position. We actually need a dynamic playmaker. We actually need some more size and defense, which he's known for at the point guard position. His leadership, his veteran savvy and experience could prove tremendous for one of those teams going into the playoffs. The second player is Christian Wood. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's only 25 years old. But at 25 years old, he's also entering into his prime. A prime that says he probably wants to compete for at least a playoff spot and the opportunity to become an all star. Last year's numbers, and even the year before, he really looked like he had the talent and the production to actually be considered as an all star. But because of injuries and the direction of the team, he got overlooked. And so he might be looking at this franchise like, look, I don't want to wait another 2, 3 years to begin to win enough for people to actually consider me for an all-star berth. Remember, a lot of times there's bonuses in people's contracts that they want to be able to hit and at least have an opportunity to hit. And I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to do that with the Houston Rockets. Now, I doubt that he's bought out because his contract is not as bloated as a John Wall's. But I think that he is somebody that I could see teams making moves to acquire. Some of the main teams that I see potentially making that move is a team like the Toronto Raptors or even the Golden State Warriors. Both of them have a lack of depth and experience at the center position, the center power forward position. He can play both. And the acquisition of somebody of Christian Wood's talent to be able to spread the floor, shoot threes, block shots, run the floor, score in transition, be able to hit the boards, and to be able to attack other bigs off the dribble, almost as a poor man's Anthony Davis. I think that we can see one of those teams seeing him as an acquisition that puts them over the top. A Christian Wood backing up James Wiseman or even supplanting James Wiseman and starting. Yo, I could see the Golden State Warriors validly saying, we have a shot to compete at an NBA championship, whether or not Klay Thompson returns to form or not. Remember, Christian Wood is 21-10. He could score 20 plus points a game, over 10 plus rebounds and block shots. And in that system, with Draymond Green spreading the ball around, Stephen Curry moving off the ball, you still got Andrew Wiggins as a great 3-and-D player. You're going to have enough scoring and stars on that team to really open up the court for him. And with Christian Wood's ability to spread the floor, expect the Golden State Warriors to be able to really exploit backdoor cuts like they love to do already, and to be able to run some pick and rolls and pick and pops that really put a lot of pressure on opposing big men. Now, the next player I want to take a look at is Eric Gordon. A lot of people overlook Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon was kind of the Bradley Beal before the Bradley Beal. He was that dynamic, athletic, scoring off guard who can shoot from range, can score at all three levels, get to the rim. He's physically really strong and has been a consistent playoff performer every single year that he's been in the league. When he makes the playoffs, you see him show up. He has big games. And even though there's been some letdowns with the Houston Rockets, you can't say that he actually disappeared. He was actually one of the bench players that was more relied upon than most others. In his position, I can actually see a trade happening as well. The teams that I'm thinking that might make the biggest move for him is once again the Miami Heat or a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. Some of the teams I'm going to repeat, but I'm repeating these teams because they're actual contenders. They're actual teams who are anticipating making a deep playoff run and really want to stockpile as much talent, depth, experience to compete in the playoffs as possible. Because as we saw with the Phoenix Suns, playing young guys in the playoffs, it kind of leaves you in a position where you don't know what you're going to get. You had guys like Cameron Payne have one good series and then disappear for the rest of the playoffs. You had other guys who didn't show up until the NBA Finals. You don't know with young guys. But with the veterans who have already been there before, who have been to a Western Conference Finals, who have been to multiple playoff berths, who have been through those tough grit grind series and know how to manage the stress, the anxiety, the expectations of winning it all, and still show up. That's invaluable when you're going into a deep playoff series. And with the East literally being as deep as it's ever been. It is officially the deeper, more competitive conference in the NBA. I think we're going to see one of those teams make a move for Eric Gordon to be able to get that reliable shooting, that toughness, the physicality, ability to get to the rim, who knows what to do in big situations. I think that's going to be really attractive for one of those teams. The next player, and you may kind of overlook it, but it's DJ Augustine. DJ Augustine, the Texas product who played with the Charlotte Hornets, then went to the Orlando Magic. Remember, he even hit a game winner in the playoffs against the Toronto Raptors with the Orlando Magic, playing under head coach Steve Clifford. DJ Augustine is one of those guys who doesn't make a lot of mistakes and can shoot the ball, knows how to run an offense, and really is one of those sound players that you can rely upon. When you throw him in the game, you're not going to worry about him turning the ball over, missing an assignment, not knowing who to get the ball to in the right situation. You can just simply rely on him to make the right play. Uh, this is where you're going to see, I think, a team like the Golden State Warriors, the Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks, really look to make a play for him. They're going to be the teams that say, hey, you know what? Just depth wise, we need somebody that we can trust. We need somebody that we're not worried about what they're going to produce. And if I'm honest, I think Jordan Poole with the Golden State Warriors is actually more of an off guard who's looking to score versus a point guard who's actually looking to facilitate and set up the offense and making sure everyone's in the right position. And I look at the Golden State Warriors because they're literally in a position where, hey, if we're going to hang on to Stephen Curry, who's still in his prime and a potential MVP candidate, we have to give him the help that he needs in this year. Last year, he did not have the help that he needs. And after signing that huge extension, his expectation is going to be he's going to get the help that he needs. Now, of course, the Houston Rockets have a slew of other veterans. They got guys like Danuel House. They've got my man, I can't think of his name, David Nwaba. He's another older veteran player, still in his prime. I think he's like 28, 29. Danuel House is about 29 years old. Both of them have played in the playoffs before, known for their defense. David Nwaba has increased his shooting ability to get it to that at least NBA average. But these guys are reliable guys that maybe you're not going to give them 20 plus minutes in a playoff series, but they can come in and be a lockdown defender or a versatile defender. They can come in and make good plays that contribute to winning, and they allow you to actually be able to spell your starters a little bit. And if there's an injury, you're not going to mind playing them because you know what they're going to give you, and they're reliable in that regard. But I'll leave it at this. Where those players go in this upcoming 21-22 NBA season could very well determine the outlook of the NBA championship. Can you imagine John Wall having a comeback season with the Milwaukee Bucks? 20 plus points a game, 6, 7 assists, a couple of steals, 3, 4 rebounds on that roster. Having Drew Holiday at the off guard position, bringing DiVincenzo off the bench, or even John Wall off the bench behind Drew Holiday playing alongside of him, and behind him, just the depth that gives that roster. Another dynamic playmaker, a lot of speed, a chip on his shoulder. I mean, shoot, you look at Christian Wood, if he's with the Toronto Raptors, a reliable 20 plus points a game and 10 rebounds, a couple of blocks, some 3-point shooting. I mean, that's like a souped up Serge Ibaka that the Toronto Raptors had a few years ago. That's like Serge Ibaka combined with Pascal Siakam. You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge asset for that team to have that type of depth. Or even the Golden State Warriors to get any one of those guys, what it would do to their depth and what they would be able to contribute in a deep playoff run. So once again, I think we need to take a good look at what the Houston Rockets do this offseason. I know they're already talking with John Wall about making moves and getting him to a team that he can compete on, and being honest that, hey, we're not headed in the direction that you are. And so I think that chip will fall first. But don't be shocked if the Christian Wood, Eric Gordon, DJ Augustine, Danuel House, David Nwaba falls quickly after. And even Daniel Theis, who's in his upper 20s. may be like, hey, you know what? I'd rather play someplace else. And I don't think they would mind moving him, even though they just signed him, because that happens plenty of times. Sometimes teams sign players because they become an asset, not necessarily because they're a player that they see making a big difference in the current season. So once again, this is Ross with The Rock Never Stops, an episode about the Houston Rockets and their farm team for this upcoming season. If you enjoyed the video, hit a like, please subscribe, put some comments. I definitely respond to them, and let me know what you think. All right, until next time, peace.